Good morning. My name is Tracy Warren. I'm the Managing Director of eWomenNetwork Snohomish County, and we are doing these eWomenNetwork business spotlights to get to know the members in our chapter. My purpose in doing this is, well, first of all, I get to know the members. Second of all, so do you. So does whoever comes and watches this later because we're talking. So this morning I'm chatting with Sara James Williams, and she is with Jezebel VonZephyr Photography and Boudoir.
It's glamour and boudoir photography.
Glamour and boudoir photography. Okay, so first of all, tell me, Jezebel VonZephyr. What? Where? Well, it's curious. Now it's also unforgettable.
Good.
Now, I always have to double check the spelling to make sure I've got it right. But where did that come from? What is that?
Well, quite honestly, it was a name that was created when the idea of what my business was or is or what's turned it into was very different. So when I started this business as actually, quite honestly, as like a backup to an already backup plan. I lost my dad in July of 2013, and my intention, after major life shift, but my intention at that point was to write a book. And so I spent a lot of time sitting at home and writing and starting and stopping and starting and stopping. And for those of you that have written books that may or may not be I really hard. It's really hard. I really honor people that do that.
Yeah. I tried to give up. I have a book, and I emailed my publisher and I said, you know what? I don't think I can do this.
Yeah, it's tough work. Yeah. It is tough work. At any rate, so one of the things that had come to mind while I was in this stuck place of writing and stopping and writing and stopping was that I had done a boudoir shoot for my sister about 6 months before that. And it was really on a whim. I always had a nice camera, and she called me and just begged me to do this shoot for her. And I was like, oh, fine. And it was silly and fun and nothing overly emotional or anything like that. It was just all very kind of surfacey, and we had a really good time. And but then I was like, well, I remember all of that being really fun. And she said something about, well, why don't you just do this on the side? And I was like, well, I'll just do that. So the name really came from the fact that the audience that I was initially looking to attract were kind of what most people think of as the audience for boudoir clients, right? I was looking for younger women, and they're probably early to mid-20s that were just getting married or were just recently married and wanted to do something nice for their husbands. And all of that really shifted about 6 months into my business. I met a woman who was turning 48 and hadn't had a good, memorable birthday in many years and wanted to celebrate with something fun. But in her conversation, she shared with me that not only was she 48, but that she had lost 100 pounds recently and was a survivor of a lot of sexual trauma. And her wanting to kind of bear it all, if you will, with me, that resonated with me as important and scary for her and cathartic, and all of those things, and the possibilities for all of those things were there. And so the name doesn't necessarily really fit with what we do at this point, but it is fun, and I do really love it. And I do like that it is kind of a bit of an alter ego, and I think that we all kind of do put on that face a little bit. Although I really encourage truth and honesty and lack of an alter ego, but yeah, that's kind of a long answer to your question, but the name really sprouted from Google searches and trying to find fun, quippy names that were going to kind of be unique in their own.
Right. Well, and I do appreciate, even when you were telling the story about how you wanted to work with brides who wanted to do something special for their husbands, like,
sure,
it's such a gift of empowerment for women to do for themselves.
It absolutely is, and that was the piece that I didn't really I didn't know at the time, right? I had thought about glamour and boudoir the same way that most other people do, and which is that it's very surfacey, that there's that it's really not about the woman that's coming in, that it's about whatever she's doing for her husband, and wow, it just couldn't even be any further from the truth. That I have people that come to me now, and 95% of them are there for themselves. And I hear a lot of, oh, well, my husband will get to reap the benefits of this, but this is really for me. So,
and I think that really incredible. That's important to establish, because I think it changes the whole tone of the shoot, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Like if it's just for him, it's going to be one way, but if it's for you, like it feels different.
It feels different, and we get different reactions and stuff from our clients. So when they're there and they're strictly there for their husbands, their thought process is, what do I wear and how do I stand? How do I pose in a way that he's going to think that I think that he's going to think is going to be attractive? So there's the whole like, it's not about the woman herself. At that point, kind of leaves her own body, because she's not thinking about how she feels beautiful. She's thinking, how does she present that her husband thinks that she looks beautiful? And I have seen that surprise many women, actually, because even the ones that do come in for themselves, several of them have brought their husbands in for the reveal. And it's always interesting, because I think as women, we know that men are visual creatures, and we assume that the photos that they're going to want are going to be the ones of our bodies. And the favorites of every husband I've ever seen are always the pictures of their wife's face, every time. It's a close-up that it's just this face right here. And there's maybe a little shoulder hanging out. I mean, there's still a very sensual piece to it, but it's always the one of, no, I want the one with your face in it. And it's so very sweet to kind of see and hear that happen, because I think as women, we don't think that that's the case, right? We're like, oh, he's going to want the hot shot of our body, but it really does not usually work that way. So,
right. Thank goodness.
Well, and here's the other thing.
I don't know.
We stress out about these things, and I know that we don't see ourselves the way that a lot of the rest of the world sees us, and thank God for that too sometimes, right? Because we can be pretty hard on our own individual judgments of what we think we look like and present to the world. And that's part of the reason why I encourage people to come see me, is because you get to see yourself for a little while as somebody else sees you, and quite possibly how most of the rest of the world sees you walking around. And I've had more than one husband say this to his wife. So, where his comments are something along the lines of, well, this is how I see you every day. And I think as women, we're blown away by that, because we're like, well, do you have any idea how much work went into making sure that this, and you see me like this every day, without makeup, with makeup, without any of the extra fluff and stuffs, and it's true. And they, for the most part, your husband doesn't care. Really doesn't care. He's just so happy that you love him and that you're there with him, and that you would do something so incredibly generous, and then to share it with him is usually enough. Yeah.
Hey, Sarah, can I interrupt you for a second? So you have a bad internet signal. So do you have other tabs open on your computer?
Do I have what?
That you could close? Do you have tabs open on your computer?
Yeah,
like
Facebook,
do you have Facebook open?
There we go. That's it. Everything else is closed. Was I choppy?
Okay. I'm still not seeing you. That's okay. It was choppy, and now I can't even see you. It says poor internet signal. It could be because you're sitting outside, but that's all right. We can make it work with audio only. I would rather see your face, but
I'm right next to my.
Oh, the train!
I'm right next to my Wi-Fi, which is weird.
I need to come.
Yeah.
The router. Of course you are.
Right on the other side of that wall.
I don't even know.
Sorry.
Anyway. No, it's all right. I'm totally cash, just not looking at your face anymore. I wonder if it's so. And apparently, I need to come
because I can see you.
I just have audio only for you. Okay, so let me see.
Did you have video for me?
I have stuff open.
Did you have video for me? You did. And
I
then
did.
It went away. It's like, I didn't click the button weird.
And let me close. Nope, I'm closing everything. And your presence will be set to do not disturb. Thank you very much. Okay, everything's closed. We'll see. And okay, so question for you. So how often do you feel like you are, like, do you feel like you have to twist people's arms, or are they usually contacting you because they're ready? Like, what is that process like?
It depends. Usually people are contacting me because they're ready. And it's really funny because it's one of the things that I often tell people is that I don't want to twist your arm. I don't want you to come in until you're ready. And the question usually after that is, well, how do I know when I'm ready? The fact that you're even curious and willing to set up the appointment usually is a good indicator that you're ready. But
right.
I think that there are some people that get talked into it by their friends, that maybe feel like they've been talked into it by me, or that they've heard that this is really fun, and then they get there and there's the train again. Sorry. But I've seen clients show up, and then it's just the way that their body language is different. When you can see that they're really not ready, that they get there and their nerves are still running pretty high, and they're not totally willing to play in this space. And the nerves are very normal. Everybody that comes in is nervous. I get nervous. I do a shoot every year, and I get nervous, and it's just a thing. I'm not used to being on the other side of the camera, and then I always try to direct the situation, and I get yelled at a lot for that, but I do. But it's there's a difference with nerves that are kind of, I don't know, in check maybe a little bit, and somewhat in control, where you're kind of, versus the ones where you're just really not ready, and maybe you're there because a friend drug you along, or you're there because somebody pushed you into doing this because your wedding is in a month, or whatever it is. I do see women come in that are not really ready yet. Which is unfortunate for me, but and unfortunate for them, because they kind of lose out a little bit on a really exciting opportunity. You have to be willing. I know this sounds really silly, but you really have to be willing to really play in this space and not be afraid to look stupid or stand weird or, say something silly or ridiculous. And you really I can pose you all day long, but if you don't fall into the pose and really commit to it, then it looks posed, right? So your personality needs to come through the photos, and we do the best that we can to try to pull that out of people, but there are some women that just aren't willing to give, and that's okay. It's really okay. Those are usually the women that call me 6 months later and say, oh, I'd really love to come back. I was really, really nervous the first time, and I want to try and do something different this time. And so it really just depends. I've never drug in or twisted anybody's arm. I do talk to a lot of people about this for sure. I have, a list of people that would just be like dream clients for me, and those people pretty much know who they are. I tell them. But those are the ones that I know that I really don't want to photograph them until they're ready. Like, I really just don't.
Yeah.
So, people that I see the beauty in that they don't see in themselves. So
do you do traditional?
I do.
What other kind of photography do you do?
In addition to doing boudoir, we usually encourage our clients to bring in some dresses, so we can do some glamoury kind of stuff as well. And then depending on who they are, like you, for instance, I would suggest you bring in like some business attire if you wanted extra headshots or something while we were there, because we're there. You run your own business. You may as well get all of that while you're there, right? So
I did that, actually. I did a boudoir photo shoot 4 years ago, and we did exactly that. Like, okay, I need some headshots at the same time. I'm laughing because somebody named Johnny joined. He gave us props. That's what the little hands are at the bottom of the screen. And then he tried to join the conversation. When I said no, he left. Okay, so I'm just laughing at myself. So what does, I don't know if I let you finish answering the questions. So But you don't do weddings.
I don't do newborns. And that's really about it. That's about my only limitations. And the primary reason for that are newborns, you need special setup. There's special equipment and backdrops and all kinds of things. The same way that there is for Boudoir. It's its own special niche, right? You got to have the stuff.
Yeah.
And I just haven't invested in it and don't have any interest in doing so. And then I don't do weddings because brides can be a little bit scary. And I work with them already within my Boudoir business, and that's enough for me. Oh, and I've been that terrible person. So I'm speaking from my own experience of not having been the nicest bride at one time or another, and it's just too much.
I've actually heard about a lot of photographers that used to do weddings because you get to a point. And when I got married almost 7 years ago, we didn't invest in a photographer, and I regret it. Yeah. I regret it. But I was 20, we were paying for the wedding, and we just didn't have the money. And so any bride, I'm like, no, you don't chance on a photographer.
When my husband and I got married, we've been together 15 years, but when we got married 5 years ago, that was one of the things that we invested in was a really good photographer, and I recommend him to everybody. Anybody that comes to me and says, will you please shoot my wedding? I'm like, I will not shoot your wedding, but I will give you the contact information of the best wedding photographer that I know. So,
well, and what a testimonial since he did yours. Like,
sure.
As a photographer, if you can refer someone.
Oh, he's amazing. So he's getting married now too,
awesome.
So I don't know who he's going to have shoot his wedding, but it's not going to be me.
Yeah. I can't imagine working with brides, and not just brides, but their mothers.
It's a whole thing. And
all that.
The other big piece of that is that your schedule is never really your own. Your entire schedule rotates around somebody's wedding. If I get sick and I come down with the flu tonight and I can't go for my photo shoot tomorrow morning, I can call my client and say, I'm so very sorry, but I'm deathly ill and we need to reschedule your boudoir session. You cannot do that to a bride. She's going to be like, I don't really care. Get your butt here and be done with it. And this is my day, and I get that. And I'll absolutely deserve that. The money that you pay for a wedding photographer, and that's part of why you pay a higher price for wedding anything, is because somebody else is owning the schedule of that vendor, and whether that's the photographer, the caterer, or anybody else, their schedule is not their own.
So how many clients do you typically have in a week? Like, what's an ideal week look like for you?
Sure.
From a client standpoint?
Right now, we do around 3 to 4 photo sessions a week. When we are super busy, which is usually around the fall, prepping for Christmas and Valentine's Day, then we're usually around 6 or 7 sessions a week. And then we've got reveals mixed in on top of that. So that's the reveal appointment to actually see your images. And we're doing usually 3 to 4 of those a week as well. And then we do a planning and prep session, which is just like a consult kind of thing a couple weeks before their shoot. And that's usually over the phone or at the studio if they have time. And we're doing about 3 or 4 of those a week right now. So I'm probably talking to, 8 to 12 clients a week.
So you keep saying we.
Who's we? We is, I have a little team. I am our primary photographer, obviously. And I have a hair and makeup artist. And I have 2 hair and makeup artists, actually. And one of them has a dual role in that she's also the secondary photographer in my studio. So, nice. She's kind of multi-talented in every way that a person can be. She doesn't like me to brag about it, or I guess it's me bragging, I don't know. But she sings, she plays instruments, she is gifted in many, many different arenas. So when I say we, it really is we. I also have an assistant that does a lot of paperwork and sends emails and stuff for me from time to time. But yeah, so my little team and I working with our lady peeps, getting their pictures taken. It takes a little village. I got to tell you, this is not something that's just like, oh, hey, well, we're going to do this tomorrow. It'll be fine.
Right. Well, and I think that is one thing that allows you to differentiate yourself, that you are part of a team. Even the way you have it set up, that you have a consult before, you do the photography, then you have a reveal. I mean, all of that, I think is differentiating.
I think so too. I think it's important that, I mean,
yeah.
I know that women are coming to us and we're asking them to be vulnerable. We're asking them to be raw. We're asking them to, and not just with their bodies, but also with their emotions. I mean, this is an emotional thing. And, and so many of us spend many years hating our bodies. And, the women that I see, we're asking them not to do that. In order to not do that, they've got to be a little bit more vulnerable with us. And they share all kinds of amazing things, which are just incredible and beautiful and very empowering for us. And we get to watch women step into their skin and own it. And it's that is the payment. That in itself is the most amazing thing ever. It's what drives us to do it over and over again. So.
It's really interesting. A couple weeks ago, I was at this coaching thing, and I was talking to a gal who was a photographer, and I said, well, what you really do is empower women. And that was like an aha moment for her, which I was a little confused by, because I thought that all photographers knew that that's what
they don't know that.
Apparently not. Like, it's your job to make me look beautiful when I don't necessarily feel beautiful, right? And so I appreciate that there are people in the world like you that are out there doing that. So what do you see for you as the biggest challenge for you in your business?
Well, I mean, marketing and businessy stuff, that stuff of it is not ever my favorite. I mean, if I could just take pictures and do the edits and reveals and stuff all day long, then that would be my favorite. So, but I think the hardest thing, honestly, is, and it's not even in marketing, it's just that in getting people that you don't know to trust you. And that's really what this is about. I mean, I am a complete stranger to most of my clients, and many of them at this point are coming in on referral, but for a lot of them, it's, well, this woman's a total stranger and she just wants me to take off my clothes and take all my money. And that's not necessarily true. I mean, I understand the scariness and all of that.
That's really fascinating. I had never considered that you would be photographing people you didn't know.
Most of my clients I don't know. Yeah.
But of course. So do you ever do like events where, like, open house type things so people can come?
We do. So
do you have anything like that coming up?
We've got one. We have one scheduled for June 4th, but we also have another one scheduled for, I think, like August 2nd. So my team and I we're going to cancel the June event just because it's too close to the August event. But yeah, so in August, like I said, I think it's on August 2nd. It's that first Saturday. We do galas. We do big formal gala events, and it's a really fun way to get to meet our team and get to know us a little bit better, and see that we're not so scary, and that we, just like everybody else, that we're just humans, and we make silly mistakes and sometimes say and do the wrong thing, and but that we're also very comfortable and easy to be around. We do little tours of the studio. We feed you a 4-course dinner, and then you get like a little mini portrait session with us that night. So it is a formal event. We do ask that you dress up, because then you're all perfect and ready to go for your little mini shoot, and then we send you your digital copies as well as a print of one of your images after that. So yeah, it's really awesome. Fun. It's really fun, and it's small. We max the ticket sales at 16, because we don't want we don't want there to be too many women there and that we can't actually get to talk to you and remember who you are. And the last thing that I would hate to have happen is have somebody call me in a few months and be like, oh, I'd love to schedule my session. And then I'm like, oh, I have no idea who you are. Like, oh, I came to your thing. I should know who's coming to my thing. I need to know who those people are. And so we keep that small so that I do remember who you are. And what I think is really surprising is I get emails even from clients that I photographed 6 months or more ago. And they're like, I don't know if you remember me, but I'm like, of course I remember you. Like, that's sad to me. I mean, I remember all of my clients. I know who they are. Hi, Penny. I do know Penny.
You know Penny?
Penny is one of my clients.
Yay! Well, I'm so glad she's here. Oh, if she wants to talk, I'll let her. That's really interesting. Like, I don't know if you remember me. And it makes me think about my eWomen events. Like, sometimes I get home and I'm looking through the business cards of the people who were there, and I'm like, oh, crud, I didn't talk to this one. Well, and I probably can't talk to everyone.
Well, you've got a big chapter.
When there's 40 people there. But I really do want to make an effort, because if I don't talk to them, then I feel like, oh, like even to follow up with them, I'm like, wow, I didn't meet you at the event. So from those gala events, like, do many of those women then become clients?
They do. And some of them are already former clients. So some of them are clients of mine that just want to come back and play with us because they had such a good time, which is a huge testament to, I think, the kind of safe atmosphere that we do create. The fact that we have clients that are just trying to spend time with us however they can, I think is amazing. And I love that so very much. And I honor it in every single way. But the secret, the little secret that we don't often share with everybody is that your admission ticket to the gala event also counts as the deposit for your session. So those women I follow up with on a regular basis about every 2 to 3 months, and they've got a year from the date of the gala to actually finish their session, should they decide to do that. Because especially they're coming in, they're just trying to see who we are and what we're about and what's going on, and it's in the least scary way possible, right? So you can put on a dress and come eat dinner with your girlfriends and laugh and talk and have a good time with us. So our next session, our next event, we're actually going to change things up a little bit, and we're adding some fun little games and things in there that are going to be really, really, really fun. So
where's your studio?
Bothell on Main Street. We are just behind. Do you know Bothell very well?
I know where a couple things are on Main Street.
Do you know where Alexa's is?
Like, no.
Okay. What do you know?
I know where the coffee house is. The Brew.
We are across the street from them and up just like a half a block. We're really close to them, actually. I'm walking distance to the Brew. And they are right next to Alligator Purse, which is like my favorite consignment store. So if you have not been there, you should definitely go.
How long has that been there?
Well, Alligator Purse has been around since there was like Bothell Landing, when Ivers and McDonald's and all of that used to be over there. The Department of Licensing was over there. Like, they've been around for a really long time. They just have continued to move. Wow. So I think they've been in that corner spot for like the last 2 years, maybe.
Okay. Okay.
Maybe not quite that long. A year and a half.
Yeah, there used to be a photographer or something that was in the corner.
Yeah. Glass
studio, he had like an art gallery, something.
Yep,
yeah,
that was a while ago. But yeah, it's a consignment.
Yeah. Okay, Alligator Purse. I think I need to go there.
It's a really great little store.
Nice. Okay, what other questions do I have for you? If you want to come in and say something wonderful about Sara, you are welcome to join us. Of course, you'd have to be video ready. Which, not everybody. Well, so I learned about Blab. One time a friend was doing a Blab, so I joined in because they were talking about Elizabeth Gilbert's
I love Big Magic.
And so I Oh, me too. So I joined and it said, "Oh, Tracy Warren's here. Tracy, you should join our conversation." Okay. Okay. I appreciate your honesty, Penny. I appreciate that. It's only 9 o'clock. It's early. But so that's where I learned, like, if I'm going to join a blab for people I know, that I should be ready to get on camera, because I might get invited. And in my case, I want to be invited, right? Like some people just want to listen, and that's totally cool too. But
I invited just
anyway.
Elizabeth Gilbert and couldn't. I
had no idea what this was. No, I didn't. It wasn't Elizabeth Gilbert. We were just talking about the book.
What? That's something you need to be camera ready for. That's just me.
Yeah, things. I'm actually. I'm reading I listened to Audible, and I just finished Rising Strong, and I feel sad. You know, when you finish a book and you kind of like, oh, I'm sad that it's over. I've loved listening to Brene Brown in my ear and that book was long. So, what did you do before this?
Before 2013, I was a project manager for a very successful media company. They provide the background music and a lot of the digital signage and stuff for massive retail brands across the world. Starbucks is one of their primary customers.
Quite a jump.
Yeah. I was a project manager for a really long time. I lived in corporate America. That's what I did. And I did
love it?
For a very long time. I really loved it.
You did?
And I was really good at it. I reached a point where I was making millions for other people that weren't being appreciative of it. And that it wasn't even really so much that. There was a little piece of that, and that was actually pretty recent in my career as a project manager. My company bought another company, and with it came new employees, and one particular thought that suddenly I was his secretary and he could just boss me around, and it didn't go over very well for him.
Under your breath for him.
It just was not a good thing. There'd be like notes on my desk, like, Sarah, you need to mail this for me. And I would just go put it back, like on his desk. Not with a no note, nothing, just sit it back there. And he'd come back and he'd be like, why didn't you mail this? Because I'm not your secretary. This is not my job. Not your assistant. This is not how this works. I made
okay. So I want to ask you about that, since you ask your clients to be vulnerable. How do you get to that?
Like vulnerable?
No. That's strength to say, no, that's not what I do. Like, that's hard. That you have to learn that, right?
Well, you probably learned skill somewhere. I think that I come from a very long line of very strong, empowered women. So it's not completely out of the wheelhouse for, like, my mom, for instance. I could totally see her doing that exact thing. Like, no, I'm sorry, this is not how this works. But I learned to stand up for myself a long time ago. I just was kind of being run over and taking whatever people would hand me. And so I learned early on in corporate land, I actually had this really great opportunity to kind of figure this out. And I was in my mid-20s, I believe, and getting ready to quit a job that I wasn't a big fan of, for another one that had better benefits and more money. And they desperately needed me. And they were like, please do, like, I was packing my desk. It was my second to last day. And they were like, please do not leave. We need you. We can't operate this season without you. It was for a roofing company. I was working for a roofing company. So their scheduling manager, and I managed the schedule for all of the roofs and the gutters, and 20 plus men. And it was April, and so they're going into busy season, right? And they were like, you cannot leave us. And I was like, well, I'm really sorry, but I have this offer, and you guys have known about this for a couple of weeks now. And so they presented me with a really unique possibility, and they said, will you please go home tonight and just conjure up what kind of number it would take for us to keep you? And I was like, well, what does that mean? And they said, whatever it doesn't, whatever that means. I like, take up the vacation time, all of these things. What does that look like monetarily wise that we can't match you, one for one, and trade it for some cash and see what that looks like. And I'm like, okay. So I went home and pulled together this little spreadsheet and sat there and laughed at myself for a minute, because it seriously was like, it was going to be me asking for like a $15,000 raise, which I was never going to happen. Right. And I was like, I'm going to make it big enough that if it does happen, it's going to be like, oh, holy. But if it doesn't, then that's okay, because I already have this great job to go to, right? I'm not losing anything. So I really was in kind of a win-win situation. It was going to be good for me regardless. And so with every ounce of bravery and courage in my bones, I sent in that proposal for the additional $15,000, and they granted it without batting an eye. I got laid off 6 months later because they couldn't afford to keep me. So there was a lesson learned there too.
Oh.
But I think that they were prepared to approve anything that I gave them just because they needed me to stay, which is not necessarily a bad thing. It really did teach me a very valuable life skill, because when I went to my next job after I did get laid off, I had learned some power of negotiation for my salary. And so when that company I told you that I left, when they hired me, they offered me $5,000 less than what I was currently making, and I negotiated it another $10,000 higher because I can. I already had another job. I was in a win-win situation, and I have always felt like it's really important to do things that scare you a little bit, and so sometimes asking for the things that you need for you is really important. And especially in the corporate world, where oftentimes the needs of the individual employee are not always brought into mind, where it's one of those like, well, this is just what we pay customer service reps, or this is just what we pay, it just is what it is. And I think that if you really believe that you deserve it and you can prove that you've got track records for those things, and you should ask for it. You should absolutely ask for it. And I do that now. I mean, I make leaps in my business all the time that are a little bit scary, and
well, and even what you just said, the irony, or maybe irony is not the right word, but you said you want to do things that scare you a little bit, which is exactly what you're asking your clients to do most of the time. How often do you see a client where they're like, all right, let's go?
Rare.
And they're just like, rare. Okay.
Very rare. It has happened. It's really, really rare, actually. Ironically, there's one particular client that comes to mind, and Penny was not one of those. She wasn't, but she was incredible. Her shoot was so beautiful, and Penny is just this really amazing woman. And it did take her a little bit, but she was willing to play in this space, and she had a really good time with us. But there was one client that comes to mind, and it was before I had a team. It was before 2 remodels in the studio ago. I actually was just chatting with her husband on Facebook last night. He and I hope that they see this, but it's one of my favorite stories. He called me and said, hey, I need you to help talk my wife into coming in to see you. And I was immediately kind of taken aback by it, because I'm like, well, no, this needs to be about her and on her terms, and when she wants to come see me, and not when you're ready for her. But that's really sweet. And then he kept telling me all these beautiful things about her, and that she's just the most beautiful woman that he's ever seen. Aww. And they've been married for almost 20 years, and he's just madly in love with her. And just like, really, it almost made me cry. I had that moment where I was like, I really hope my husband says these things about me when I'm not around, because it was so beautiful. And he's like, okay, and she just got out of the shower. I'm going to put her on the phone. And I'm like, well, wait a minute. But I'm guessing that he told her who I was, because she knew she knew that I was a photographer when she got on the phone. And I told her, I said, I want you to know that your husband just said some really incredible things about you, and he thinks the world of you, and I would love for you to come in. And eventually she did. But when she did come in, she was my very first client that was like, she was wearing this cute little short dress, and she's like, well, gonna see me naked anyway, and just gone. I'm like, Hi. How are you?
Hello.
So, but she was amazing. She is so beautiful. One of my favorite clients to photograph. She was really, really fun. And her husband was telling me, he messaged me last night, his birthday and their anniversary. And he was like, oh, we need to talk her coming back in. And I was like, whenever she's ready, I'm here. So
I don't think you'll have to talk
probably
her
not.
Oh gosh. Okay,
no, and we hear about things like that a lot, but I think that's probably one of the first and only times that I can recall a husband calling and begging me to talk his wife into it. But two, that was definitely the first time that somebody was just like, all right, I'm here and I'm naked, let's do it. And I'm like, all right, let's do it. So it does happen, but it's pretty rare. I don't even come into the studio space that way. And it's my space. When I'm on the other side, I still come in and I'm like, just like everybody else, I have the same experience that all of my clients have. I go through what am I going to wear and what am I going to pack and what kind of theme do I want to do and all of that.
Before my shoot, I created a Pinterest board, private Pinterest board. And what's funny is after the shoot, I did a couple of like Pinterest workshops. And I had to, because I used my Pinterest account to demo, and I'm like, oh, I need to go delete that board, because then people are seeing it. I'm like, oh yeah, you can have private boards, and here's so one here. Let me delete.
I encourage a lot of my clients to use private boards actually, and then they can share those with me, so that then if they wanted me to see something, they can message me and say, hey, I wanted you to see this pose or this outfit or this makeup look or whatever it is. So, and I encourage clients to bring in photos or anything like that they want, that are kind of in their general idea of what they're after, that help us creatively and artistically figure out kind of how to better plan their shoot.
Yeah. So what's your next kind of big scary thing? Do you have something that you're ruminating with?
Our next big scary thing is our model rep program. So we just finished collecting applications for that and notifying our winners, if you will.
Yep. I have a secret. Somebody told me.
Oh, really?
She's like, I have a secret. I can't tell anybody, but I'll tell you.
No, they can tell people. At this point, it's really okay. It's totally open. So whomever that is, you may tell them that they are allowed to share.
Okay.
We are doing orientation with them in about 2 weeks, and so all of that will start to come to the surface here pretty quickly. But yeah, it was the model rep program was kind of a scary thing. I was like, well, see if this works, see if it doesn't work. I still don't know. I mean, we had several dozen women apply. I think we ended up with over 50 applications. Most of them from here.
So for those who don't know what that is, can you kind of explain what that is?
So the model rep program was kind of an idea that that Mackenzie, who is my hair and makeup artist, and I kind of came together with. It was under the basis that a majority of our clients, and particularly the clients that have the biggest shifts within our studio, tend to be women over the age of 35. And I think that there's just a mindset change that happens at that age for women, where you this is the downside to being outside. You've probably married, maybe even divorced, often have kids at that point, often have been through enough living life that you've had somebody say something or do something that's impacted the way that your self-esteem is or the way that you view your body. Most women, it's having children that will do that. And I speak from experience on that. I've had that same experience myself, where your body shifts so dramatically after having kids that you're just kind of like, whoa, what happened here? But so that was our age group that had the biggest impact, and the one that we love to photograph so very much. Our oldest client is, she's 80 now, but she was 79 when she came in. Yeah. Yeah.
That's so
one of my
awesome.
favorite clients. Oh my gosh, she's amazing. Every time I see her, she is more of a diva, and I see her about every 6 months. And the last time I saw her, she came in a fur coat with a hat and the whole, and she was just, I'm here today. And it was amazing. It was absolutely amazing.
Oh my gosh, that's so awesome.
And one of the things that she told me after her first session was that she was so mad that she had been neglecting this part of her body and her life for these so many years. She's like, I wish I'd done this 20 years ago. And so now I see her pretty frequently. And so anyway, so knowing that was the age group, that 35 and above really was where we started to see shifts and changes and transformation happen, and really like massive body acceptance, which I just think is so vital. So we threw together this program. We said, well, let's take, 10 women and we'll give them a super discounted session and huge discount on all of their products and whatever else. But then their job is to kind of recruit for us. And along the way in their recruiting process, we're paying them with, Visa gift cards and prizes and possible free shoots for their best friends. And there's an iPad mini the giveaway that's in the running. So that's one of the big prize is the first person from that model rep program to send us, I think it's 5. It might be 10. I think it's 5. I think it's the first person to send us 5 people gets a free mini iPad. But that program really just kind of came out of, how can we better reach this audience? And I know that a lot of people that, it's kind of a business thing is, well, where do your clients shop? What does your demographic do? Where do they go? And that sort of thing. And I'm part of that demographic, so I run into it a lot. But Mackenzie isn't, so she doesn't always run into it a lot, although she's got one of the oldest souls I've ever met in my life. So you never know her age just by talking to her ever. In many ways, she's way wise, even beyond my years. Super smart girl, very intuitive. But yeah, so it was just a matter of like, okay, well, and I am one of those women, but I'm also an entrepreneur. So it puts me in a special kind of category with the 35 and plus group, versus kind of hitting that everyday woman that's running around doing all, trying to run the corporate job, or she's a stay-at-home mom, or maybe, who knows what she's doing. So I hit a very specific target, and I wanted that audience to be a little bit bigger. And so now we ended up with 15 reps actually. And I'm so excited. I'm so excited. We got applications from some incredible women with amazing stories to tell. Lots of overcoming of major obstacles in their lives, whether that was domestic violence, or cancer, or sexual abuse, or 4 kids that are off in college now that are all very successful. I mean, being a parent is hard stuff. I mean, raising 4 kids that have all made it through high school and all made it through college and that are off doing big successful things, that is an accomplishment. So we're taking these women and celebrating them in a really, really big way. So we'll see.
Nice. And growing your business in the process. Yeah, that's awesome. So if you get a chance, I watched a preview this morning for a new movie called Bad Moms. It looks hysterical because it's all about like these moms who are like this one particular mom who is so sick of the perfect moms. And so one of the lines in the preview is, are those store-bought donut holes for the bake sale? And anyway, just, being a mom, I'm like, this whole idea.
That was me. I was the store-bought donut hole mom. Like, I was not ever, my poor daughter, I was not ever the stay-at-home, like, let me just bake all day in an apron. That was not me. No. And part of what made me think of that is you just said that every day, like the everyday woman, it's so funny how while we've come so far, there are so many things in society that are like, no, you've gone far enough. Don't go too far.
Okay.
Yeah.
Stop it. Right. Don't go too far. You know, you've taken one step. Well, and you look at that in, I hate to say the media, but I had a girlfriend who went to an event this weekend, and she talks about being a feminist and how women can be empowered. And then during her talk, she put men down the whole time, which is not good. And her logo was very risque, like not empowering to women at all. So it's like, really anyway,
about that kind of thing.
Whole...
I'm marked feminist, actually. You know, you guys can all see that, but I've even got it tattooed.
Nice.
I promote empowerment of women every day, all day long. And one of the things that people hear me say a lot is that we need to be lifting each other up and not tearing each other down, because women tend to be, they tend to be the worst. Quite honestly, we are so much worse to each other than to some degree even than men ever have been. With the competition,
I agree.
God, the competition is just. I have people, you know, I've had other photographers tell me, well, I can't be in this networking group with you, or I can't do this thing with you because you're another photographer and we're competing for business. And I just don't function that way. I just don't. There's enough for everybody. What I do and what I offer is very different than what a lot of other boudoir and glamour photographers offer. And my experience through my studio is going to be different from somebody else's experience. And that's okay. Yeah. It's really okay. From
not everybody is going to jive with everybody, and that's okay. And I have met real estate agents who I would never, ever, ever refer. Yeah. And then I don't know how many real estate agents I know.
I know quite a few as well. I used to work in the real estate industry. So.
Yeah. And so it's like, so like today at eWomen, for example, there's another permanent makeup artist coming, and we already have a permanent makeup artist coming. And it's like, you know what? I sent a message to the current member and said, hey, there's another permanent makeup artist coming. She just started her business. She's like, I can't wait to meet her. And I'm like, I knew you would say that.
That's so good.
You would say that. Because it's not about, like you said, there's plenty out there. I just got a referral from another social media speaker to speak for a PTA. And she passed it off to me because I have kids. And so she thought that I'd be a better fit. So then when somebody says, hey, I need a LinkedIn expert, great. Then I'm able to refer her. Right. And it goes.
It's so much easier when we all work together. It's so much easier. And I don't live in that competitive world. I lived in that space for a really long time. And I saw the way I didn't like the things that I did and said and who I was when I lived in that space. It didn't feel true to myself. And it feels catty and crappy and mean-spirited, and it's just not a good place for me. So I'm really up the space. There's enough
lifting
for everybody.
Each other's up. Well, and lifting others up, that's also what you do.
Right. Well, I can't say that this is my business and then turn around and talk crap about people. That's not how it
works. I'm like, okay, I know I have to be, I feel like people really trust me, and so they share things with me that sometimes I wish they wouldn't. No, I didn't.
I don't have clients that have come in. This is always surprising to me, that have had terrible experiences at other boudoir studios, and yet they still have the courage to call me, which always amazing to me.
That's amazing.
Every single time that happens, I'm like, oh my God, really? You're a brave woman. But I don't ever want to know who the other photography studio is. And sometimes they want to tell me, and I'm like, I may not even know who they are, but it's not a huge community. And if I run into them, I don't want to know bad things about them, because maybe they were having a bad day. Maybe they were having an off day. Maybe, maybe they had personal stuff that they couldn't leave out of the studio that day. Who knows? They're human people, and there's no reason for me to judge them on somebody else's experience. And so, and it's hard not to do that. If you know who they are and there's this terrible thing that's happened, it's really hard not to judge somebody. So
there's the managing director in the Seattle chapter. She was just recently in Phoenix. And I warned her. I said, just so you know, you're a managing director. That means you're going to get pounced on. People will say, oh, you're a managing director. I want to come speak to your chapter. So I warned her. She's going to get pounced on. And she sent me, and I know a lot of people in the Phoenix chapter. I've been there before. I've met them at conference, that kind of thing, especially who the speakers are. And so she messaged me. She's like, yep, you were right. I got pounced on. And she said, and this girl was a diva. Like, she was like, I'm the table leader. And I'm like, every ounce of me wants to ask who it is. And the same amount of me does not want to know. So don't tell me. And I don't need to know. And then I recorded a video for and I just said, quit pouncing on the managing directors, like build a relationship with us. Lift as you climb, that kind of thing. So, well, it is 9:30, and frankly, I have to finish doing my name tags for the event that I have to be at in 30 minutes. I need 3.
Oh, Tracy.
So thank you so much, Sarah. This has been so awesome.
Super cool.
To talk to you and get to know you and hear the wildlife in the background. I absolutely appreciate that. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to say goodbye for the recording and don't leave anywhere. But thank you again. And we'll see you next time.